said. So I'm the district manager for Community Board 4. And as many of you know, JARC was formed in response to the Jerome Avenue neighborhood plan, which was approved by the City Council in March of 2018. As a community, we recognize the importance of inclusive economic growth, meaning that people most impacted by the rezoning should benefit from the rezoning. Tonight, we will hear from 3 candidates who will be running for Bronx Borough President: Councilmember Vanessa Gibson, Assemblywoman Nathalia Fernandez, and retired NYPD Lieutenant Sammy Ravelo. We will engage in a discussion on their vision for the borough related to jobs and economic development and support for small businesses. No small feat given where we are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment in the borough well over 20%, and it is projected that we could lose nearly half of our small businesses. Less than 20% of all small business loans went to the Bronx, and in terms of the PPP program, we ranked last of all 5 boroughs. What does all this mean? It means that the mission and work of JARC as an organization and the role of the next borough president will play a pivotal role in the economic recovery of the borough. We're pleased to have you all here, and we're excited to hear from all of our candidates this evening. Next slide.
Good evening, everyone. Kenneth Brown, District Manager, Community Board 5, to speak.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to, as Paul said, the final event in JARC Week. Let me set a little context for JARC. JARC is substantially the, next slide, is substantially the outgrowth of the Jerome Avenue rezoning. The Jerome Avenue rezoning was passed by City Council vote in March of 2018, and that included approximately $189 million in investments, entailing 60 points of agreement. Of those 60 points, 9 were for economic development, which is what the JARC is charged with. The next slide. Oh, no, that slide. The Department of City Council certified the Jerome Avenue rezoning on August 21st of 2017. And in 2016, September, the Jerome Avenue Neighborhood Study Goals was published, which codified the needs of the neighborhoods. These needs were pretty much devolved into 7 categories: economic development, housing, schools and education, community facilities, parks and open space, public health and safety, and transportation. Next slide. The rezoning was certified and sent to the community boards 4, 5, and 7 for their consideration and ultimately vote of affirmation, which was done by October 30th of 2017. The community boards ratifying the rezoning, and then it was sent to the City Council, where it voted in the affirmative on March 27th of 2018. And that is when JARC launched its independence as an initiative. Next slide.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you so much, Paul, everyone that is on here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Pierina Sanchez, and I'm a community resident and member, founding steering committee member of the Jerome Avenue Revitalization Collaborative. We are just so excited about this initiative. And so I wanted to share a little bit about where we are today. And so next slide. First and foremost, the Jerome Avenue Revitalization Collaborative, it started with a question, right? The rezoning has passed, and what can we do to advocate for our Jerome Avenue community, right? So we are founded on this theory of collective impact. Together, we can do much more than we can as individuals and as individual organizations. Each of us might have a storefront, we might have access to community members, we might have access to business leaders, but together we have access to all of this. And so we formed in 2018 in response to the rezoning to think about What are the ways that we can work together as a community to respond to the rezoning and ensure, next slide, and ensure that we can bring about inclusive economic growth and sustainability for local residents, employers, and workers impacted by the Jerome Avenue rezoning. Next slide. We are a collaborative of 15 steering committee members. 15 members of the steering committee meet approximately 5 million times a week. Just kidding, except that was closer to true in the last few weeks. But we meet regularly to discuss a few different topics. We're broken up into 3 working groups as of now, but we will be growing, and we want to invite you all to become a part. So we are governed by a set of principles of operation. And this here, our approach, is what governs our activities. So first, we want to found an employer-facing network that will provide residents with direct referrals to jobs available through JARC's agreements with real estate developers, employers, and other partners. Second, we dream to found a virtual and brick and mortar business hub that will provide local business owners and employers with access to business development resources made available through our agreements with city agencies and other partners. Third, we want to ensure fundamentally that we are connecting low-income residents to grants and financial supports to pay for the educational or workforce development training that they would otherwise not be able to afford. Next slide. And so as part of our economic development, inclusive economic development mission, we have been at work, right? We are formally launching the JARC this week, but we have been at work since 2018 and expanding our efforts in this year, in 2020 and in 2021, to ensure that our community is responding to all of our members in this time of need during the COVID-19 pandemic. So bro, I want to shout out so many of the organizations that are member of the JARC and partners of the JARC over the long term, who have gone business to business to business to ensure that we are adding everybody to WhatsApp groups and we are connected and we're building our social resilience, but we're also helping people through weekly webinars on how to apply for PPP and who is eligible and other capacitations in the community. Next slide. We're also driving development discussions. So one of our working groups focuses on talking to incoming developers who are proposing projects for this community. And we know that there is so much going on in this community. There's so much, especially with the additional development capacity that was made available through the rezoning. We know that there is so much coming our way, and we see them on the street. We see the intention to come in here and build. And so what the JARC wants to do in partnership with our community boards 4, 5, 7, and all of our organizational partners is to ensure that when folks are coming into this community, they know what the standards are. They know what we expect: local jobs, local hire, good job standards, permanent jobs creation, and all of that. And just to highlight one success story that I'm very proud of from the team, we heard from MDB and Urban Strategies, which are partnering on a project here in the community, that they were having trouble finding local hires because they needed to ensure that folks that were going to be hired locally had a certain certificate. And so we worked with them. They paid for 2 rounds of training over 2 weekends, and we were able to connect 8 folks to receive that training on scaffolding. And so that automatically qualifies them for higher wages. And we're so happy that we were able to do that. And it's just an example, shout out Karen Michelle, of all of the things that we can do when we are in community and in partnership. Next slide. And finally, we have been also very active in thinking about disinvestment in the community. We know that the disinvestment that we face today, it has roots to the 1920s and 30s. Our federal government causing redlining and our financial institutions disinvesting very, very intentionally from communities like ours, and specifically this one. We know that there are laws that protect our community and require our financial institutions to invest in communities like ours. And we know that there's state legislation, even specifically in Community Board 5. We are a banking development district that actually subsidizes banks to be in this community. And so we have also been bringing our financial institutions in the neighborhood to task. 2 of them closed over the summer, Amalgamated Bank and Chase Bank. And we have engaged after an action an action this summer, we've engaged with them in monthly conversations, and Chase Bank will be reopening a broader, an even larger branch than they had before, and they will be investing in the community. And although Amalgamated will not be returning to the community, they will also be reinvesting in the community as well. Next slide. So with that, these are some of the amazing members of the steering committee, and although we are a steering committee of 15, there are more than 80 organizations that have participated in the formation of the JARC, and so many of you are here. Thank you so much for your ongoing participation and support. We look forward to this conversation today. Next slide.
Thank you, and shout out to my partner in crime, Ms. Padilla Sanchez. And again, I just want to reiterate what Padilla said. We are a circular organization. There is no head, there is no president. We all work collaboratively. And I just want to again thank all of my partners who are here today representing, some who couldn't make it. This has been a labor of love for 2 years, and we are so proud to be here now representing the South Bronx and working on behalf of the people and residents that live here. So we are extremely fortunate today to have with us a Bronx native, Mr. Gary Axelbank, host of BronxNet Television and publisher at This is the Bronx, as moderator for this evening's event. Gary is no stranger to these types of events. As of 2018, it was estimated that he's hosted 60 political debates. And from talking to Gary, I would imagine that that number has increased exponentially over the last few months. Suffice to say, we are in very capable hands. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Axelbank. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul, and it's just a pleasure to be with everybody. If you want to adjust the numbers, I believe we're up to 75 debates right now, and I think we're going to double that by the end of 2020 because there are many races in the Bronx. Anyway, you know, I'm used to doing television, and television, the time is compressed, and so when Paul told me, "Oh, you can speak for 5 minutes," I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll speak for a minute or two." But then I started to realize there is some perspective that I can offer. And then when I thought about it, I said, you know what? And it originated in Community Board 4. So how nice to think about that. And I thought I would offer a little perspective about what JARC is about and what this really means, a little historical perspective. A lot of people ask me, so what's going on in the Bronx? And I always go back to that moment in the late 90s. I don't have the exact date. Somebody could look it up. And it was right under the L at 161st Street. And there's for sure everybody on this call knows exactly where that is. Then Borough President Freddie Ferrer stood under the L with a big press conference and all the media was there. He had a big poster, and on the poster, I should get a copy of that. It said, "Don't dump on the Bronx." And it had a picture of somebody throwing something into a trash basket. And that became the slogan, "Don't dump on the Bronx." That wasn't the first day that anybody had thought about that. And we know that, and I mean, it was even mentioned, Perina mentioned the disinvestment of the Bronx for generations. And we know that it's been like this. We went through the fires, we went through drug abuse, we went through AIDS. I mean, we did it all. And how did we survive? We survived because we didn't listen to them. To be honest with you, we did it ourselves. And when Freddie Ferrer said that, "Don't dump on the Bronx," everybody in the Bronx realized, you know what? It's about us. It's not about them. No matter how hard we try, they're not doing it. So as a result, we have to do it ourselves. And over the years, now I've looked in a couple of places to get the actual number. One number I saw, I want you to think about this. One number I saw, there are 1,200 not-for-profit organizations in the Bronx. And that was one number I saw. If you go to the Bronx Center for Nonprofits, they say, because they don't know, there are between 700 and 4,500. Now, I don't know what the truth is, not-for-profits in the borough of the Bronx. And I want you to think about that. We have 50 neighborhoods. If there are 1,200, that means in every Bronx neighborhood, there are 24 not-for-profits. Just think about how immense that is and what that is to me. And when you ask what is going on in the Bronx, that is an expression, okay, so they're going to rezone Jerome Avenue. look, that was debated. I was part of those debates. You were part of those debates, but it happened and it was voted through, and now we're left. And so what JARC is, what the Jerome Avenue Revitalization Collaborative is the grandchild of all of that. That is the people of the Bronx, this particular neighborhood, and it's a few neighborhoods, we know that, are getting together and saying, we're not waiting for them. We're not waiting for them to design our neighborhoods. We're not waiting for them to figure out what we're going to develop. We're not waiting for them to do this, that, or the other. We're going to do it ourselves. And why? Because we have the greatest people in the world who understand the world, who understand the Bronx, who understand about fairness, who understand about racism, who understand about all these things, because we've been there. We, as I said, we had the drugs, we had the AIDS, we had the fires, and we had the crack, and now we've got racial, maybe more racial divisions and than we've had before. But in the Bronx, we have more understanding. And what JARC is an expression of that understanding. And it's built, and you have to understand, it's not just, okay, we formed a collaborative. This is built on all of that legacy. It was built on the moment in Community Board 4 that Freddie Ferrer said, don't dump on the Bronx, and we'll do it ourselves. And so it is my honor, it is my pleasure. I get emotional about it because I deal with this, to try to report on it every single day. And so it's just my honor to be here. And JARC Week, that's a laugh. It's JARC Lifetime. That's what we're doing here tonight. And that's where we're going with this. So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you. And I think we're going to just get started because we've got the past, we talked about the present, and the future. It's likely one of the people who are with us will be the borough president of the Bronx next. And so we're going to give them each a chance to have their say. And I've got already enough questions, but if people have questions, send them in. We'll try to get as many answered as we can. So let me, we said we'll do it in alphabetical order, always thinking about fairness in the Bronx. And let us welcome in Assembly Member Natalia Fernandez, running for Borough President. Each of the candidates, Natalia Fernandez, Vanessa Gibson, and Sammy Ravelo, will get 2 minutes, and then we'll do a question and answer thing. So Assembly Members, so nice to see you. And please take 2 minutes and tell us all about your campaign.
Thank you so much. And Gary, that was such a great introduction. Like, I felt the sentiment there. And congratulations to this working group for putting together this monumental collaborative and really setting a new standard for what communities can do and will do for themselves. And I had to laugh. I thought it was really cute. JARC Week, Shark Week. Who don't love Shark Week? I liked it. But I'm Assemblywoman Nathalia Fernandez, representing the 80th Assembly District right now. I've been in the Assembly since 2018. Before that, the Bronx representative for Governor Cuomo. And during that time when I was just, eyes and ears for the borough for the governor, this was a hot topic. I witnessed the hearings, I heard the commotion, followed up on the news, and the passion you could tell was obviously there. The community felt very strong about what the rezoning could or could not do for our neighborhoods. So I just want to point that out again, that, to put this together is certainly a new standard and should be used around the borough to be proactive before rezonings comes and not necessarily a reactive. But this is a great start, and I'm excited for the work to be done continuing with this project. But I'm running for borough president because I feel this energy in this room. I feel it transcending all over the borough. And we have gone through the ringer with COVID. The history that Gary said right here is almost not parallel, but it's reflective of some of the pain that we went through in the decades behind us. And as we overcame that, growing the Bronx to be a place that families are moving to, that families are growing and staying in, that business opportunity is on every corner. We need to bring that back. We need to make sure we save that and keep this strength in the Bronx that we've had. We rose out of the rubble before, and now that we are coming around of COVID with vaccines all around, well, almost all around, because we have one vaccine site in the South Bronx. Today I called for one in the North Bronx. But as soon as things get a little bit more normal, we have to make sure we're hitting the ground running, and that's what I intend to do when I am borough president. My motivation is the people of the Bronx, this borough. I love this borough. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My father came here from Cuba. My mother came here from Colombia. And this borough helped them to achieve the American dream and start a family. And I want to bring the opportunities back in what has been taken from us, our jobs, community development, growth, and that path forward. We have to make sure we're taking every investment and using every opportunity and demanding every opportunity be in our borough when we're trying to bring our people back to work, helping to open business doors again, getting our kids back to school. There's a lot of work to do, and for the causes, for the issues that we have known to be in the borough, we have to make sure that we're not going to let ourselves fall back in this position should something like this happen again. It might be in another 100 years, pandemics come every 100 years, but we have a chance to really change things here in the Bronx, and I'm prepared to do that. I'm looking forward to implementing a small business plan that I have proposed with my candidacy. We need to have a task force straight out the borough president's office, collaborating with SBS, with the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, with the different bids here, merchant associations, developing new merchant associations. And for this corridor right here, this project, I believe that that chance is bigger than ever. We want new businesses to come here, original businesses made and thought of by Bronxites, and to really give that opportunity for the Bronx to be built and supported by Bronx people. Environmental justice is something that I see can go hand in hand with that. We know that the Bronx is going to grow, obviously right here. This is an example of developments to come, but we got to be smart about every investment that comes. Green energy, green jobs is the way of the future. If nobody is talking about it now, we should all be talking about it. The Bronx is the unhealthiest borough in this county in this state. And it's not only about making sure that we have good food in every public space, our schools, our senior centers, and everywhere else, but we need to make sure that our infrastructure is helping to keep our communities healthy for us, that we're not utilizing oil and transferring to gas, so these pollutions and emissions aren't going out everywhere. We need to make sure that buildings are smart when they build here. We need to make sure
Assembly member, we're only 2 minutes, so we're probably a little over that. I do appreciate your comments. A lot of the things that you're talking about we'll probably address when we get to question and answers. Okay.
Okay. Well, just
don't be mad at me. I'm just playing by.
No, I'm not mad at you at all. My bad for getting excited about this.
No, I know you, and that's a good thing. So let's bring on Councilmember Vanessa Gibson. Councilmember Gibson, let's talk for a couple of minutes about your candidacy.
Thank you so much, Gary. Good evening, everyone, to each and every one of you. Thank you to Paul Phillips, to Ken Brown, to Marina Sanchez, all of the members of the Jerome Avenue Revitalization Collaborative. I am so proud that you have launched JARC, recognizing that although the Jerome neighborhood plan has been passed, we still have a lot of work to do to strengthen families, uplift families, provide the jobs, the local hiring opportunities, MWBE provisions, supporting the growth of our great borough in a real transformative way. So I congratulate all of you on JARC Week, on the seminar you had around PPP, on just really launching this incredible partnership with WEDCO and so many other groups that I've had the honor to work with during my time in the council. I am Councilmember Vanessa Gibson. I represent District 16 in the West Bronx. I am proud and honored every day to wake up as a public servant for such a time as this. I was first elected in the New York City Council back in 2013. And I am in my final year in the city council, my 8th year. And prior to that, I served as a member of the New York State Assembly for 4 years from 2009 until 2013. And truly, it has been a rewarding experience. It's really been a blessing to serve the residents in the city council, at City Hall, on so many issues that affect our communities, our children, our families, our elders, seniors, and so many of our families. We have seen the devastating impacts of COVID-19, this global pandemic that has struck this country, the highest death rate to COVID-19 right here in the Bronx. We've seen soaring unemployment at its greatest level. We've seen food insecurity like never before. We've seen so many families struggle for basic necessities like healthy food, like internet connectivity, dealing with the digital divide. These are basic necessities that every family should have access to, regardless of where they live, their zip code, their ethnicity. None of that should matter. And the Jerome neighborhood rezoning was an opportunity. It took 3 years to get that rezoning passed, but it was with the understanding that it was a comprehensive, community-driven plan. Up zoning and raising the density to allow for more housing, but also a neighborhood plan. As we bring in new families with school-age children, we have to look at the burden on our existing public schools, School District 9. We have to look at the impact on mass transit and parks and playgrounds and open spaces. And so this collaboration happened with all of you, with the residents, the advocates, community leaders, organizations, CBOs, everyone coming together to recognize all of the priorities that we have, that we fundamentally believe in. And I am proud of our work. We learned lessons in many of the rezonings we've done at the city council, and certainly, while not perfect, but a step in the right direction. And now with the formation,
we're just about out of time then.
Yeah. Now with the formation of JARC, we have a real opportunity now to carry this to the next level. And so I come to all of you as a humble servant, as a candidate running for Bronx Borough President, because we need to get residents back to work, and we need to make sure that we uplift our families like never before. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Sammy Ravelo, Mr. Ravelo, let's give you an opportunity to take a couple of minutes and talk about your candidacy for Borough President.
Vanessa Gibson, but I thank everyone for having me here. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Pierina, Ms. Larita, Paul. I really appreciate it. Thank you for, thank you to Jerome Avenue Revitalization Collaborative. It's an important work for the future of the Bronx and the many partners that you that are here. You know, Bronx Community College, Community Boards 4 and 5, the BOEDC, the Merchants Association, the Women's Housing and Economic Development Corporation. We thank them as well. It's an honor for me to be here. Just a little bit about me. I am Sammy Ravelo. I came to the Bronx from the Dominican Republic when I was 16 years old, and my American story was here in the Bronx. My mother brought me here in a student visa, and I overstayed. As an undocumented teenager, I did not have the many options, so I worked on the corner grocery, I pumped gas, and I worked in the supermarket. I am proud to say that I have lived the American dream. As an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, I understand the dreams and aspirations of all those who came here for a better life and found one. And appreciation to all my blessings my new country afforded me, I decided to devote my life to service. First in the United States Navy, where I served in the Gulf War, and then 25 years in the New York City Police Department, where I recently retired. I consider my desire to become Bronx Borough President a continuation to my life of public service. For 40 years, the Bronx has been the poorest district, the poorest borough in New York City. And we still are. You know, it's time for a change. Today, more than half of the population in the Bronx lives below 185% in the poverty level. So it's time for new leaders and new voices that can take the Bronx to the next level. And obviously being part of the JARC, it's a start. It's a start. We want to make sure that everything that gets developed on Jerome Avenue is for Bronxites, not for outsiders. So I'm here to answer any questions. I'm very excited to be running for Bronx Borough President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo. So candidates, what we'll do is I'll ask questions to individual candidates. Mr. Ravelo, you can have the first whack at the first question, and we will ask you to limit it to a minute. We'll try to time it. You know, it's a forum, not a full debate, so we'll try to do that. Councilmember Gibson, you don't like the minute? You want to do a minute and a half? It's fine. We're trying to be helpful and collegial. So we'll go when we go on to Bronx Talk later in the year, then we'll do a minute. For now, you can do a minute and a half. That's fair. We'll start with Mr. Ravelo. And then look, this, you know, I took all the questions that have been submitted. There's a bunch of them. And really, this one just comes up over and over, and it seems very obvious. So let's start here. This was submitted actually by the members of JARC. What is the your economic plan to develop the Bronx, especially now when it comes out of, as we emerge from the pandemic?
Well, like I said earlier, we know it starts with obviously getting our businesses access to PPP loans. I mean, as you can see, again, the Bronx is last. I don't know who's watching over this, but how can this happen? And this is something that we got to stop. We got to stop coming in last on everything that's out there. And JARC provides a great opportunity for jobs. We want to make sure that any developers that we get have some sort of relationship with the Bronx. We want to make sure that the people that are working in these sites, they hire Bronxites for these sites. That's how the Bronx is going to recover economically. And obviously, we have to make sure that the businesses that are there now. I'm happy to be endorsed by the United States Bodega Association, and one of their concerns is that a lot of these folks' leases are up within the next year. They're afraid to get kicked out. So I want to make sure that we implement some sort of moratorium where businesses
another
stay.
30 seconds.
Yeah, where businesses stay and we can keep jobs. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Let's go to Assemblymember Fernandez. Same question. You talked about an economic plan in your opening remarks. Now you got 90 seconds to present it.
Right, take two. Yes, so my economic plan, obviously, yes, we need people working again. Our small businesses that have closed, we got to get those doors open again. Some are still struggling to open the doors because, unfortunately, there's been some disruption, but I believe the Borough President's office can help in getting some funding to our small businesses in the form of micro grants for whatever immediate need they need. But we should also utilize my task force that I'm putting together, again, intending to have members from SBS, BOEDC, and Bronx Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with our bid directors to make sure that people have the information and have the assistance to get the information and file it as needed. We saw that many Bronx businesses didn't get the PPPs. Some of them just didn't have the manpower or the understanding to fill out those applications. So we got to give that lending hand. But I want to assess the whole borough and really see where are the city-owned properties and utilize that space first. We need to make sure that, again, like I said, the jobs that we're putting in there, the projects that we're approving are giving back to the people. Not only getting a job, but setting up a career that they can then take that job to the next job, whether it's in or out of borough. We need to make sure that anything that we do is collaborative and is heard by the people and make sure that it is what the people approve. And this is what you're doing here. So this effort needs to be prepared all over the borough. So I intend to model this with your help and assistance and guidance to make sure that every area of the Bronx has this unit that is ready to present the wants and the needs and demands before
time is up.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Gibson, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, first, I think we have to look at more ownership opportunities. Many of our small businesses are renters and lessees, and they do not own property. We have to look at opportunities to build economic wealth and power in the Bronx. We have to look at worker cooperatives and work with the largest one right here in the Bronx, the Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative, BCDI. We also have to look at supporting our small businesses and really giving them access to grants and technical support and real opportunities, because many of our small businesses are not a part of bids and merchants associations, and they are having challenges with meeting the demands of some of the terms of a lot of these applications. We have to look at better financing opportunities. A lot of our construction, we have to mandate local hiring, MWBE provisions, and we have to support union wages and union jobs. We have to look at apprenticeship opportunities that really build a pathway to the middle class so that union work can be respected. We can support responsible development, and we can not only create temporary jobs, but we can create permanent jobs as well. The key factor in all of this is stability. People need stability. They don't need minimum wage jobs, but they need sustainable jobs that allow them to take care of themselves and their families. Collaborations with stakeholders and labor unions and trades and CBOs is the way to go, and really making sure that our existing tax credit and incentive programs drive the type of development that we want to see in the Bronx.
Thank you very much. Assemblymember Fernandez, you'll get the first crack at it, and we'll kind of go around the room. This came from Pedro from the United Auto Merchants Association. Through the process of the rezoning, Mr. Pedro is asking, if you're elected, what would you do for the hundreds of auto-related businesses that for decades had not been helped, but they got displaced during the rezoning and pushed out with any plans for their relocation? Is there anything to be said to those folks?
Very unfortunate they were pushed out, but to my understanding, and I think it was said here, a lot of these employees within our auto shops weren't really registered or connected to the location. So we need to bring them back in. We need to make sure that they do have pathways to good jobs, giving them the trainings, guidance, introductions to different and new careers, but also similar to what they've done and to their liking. So that guidance, that pathway to sustainable work, a career, not just a job, is something that I intend to have the borough president's office be helpful for.
Thank you very much. So then, Councilmember Gibson, for you, same question. I think you and I have discussed this over a long period of time, but now we're here at this point. Why don't we talk a little bit about those auto businesses that have been displaced?
Right. So Pedro, I know very well with WAMA, and we've been working very closely with SBS on commercial leasing on different services that SBS offers. We hired a Jerome rezoning manager, Janet Piguero, who was working with all of the businesses along with Pedro. Number one, we have to make sure the businesses are compliant. A lot of our auto repair body shop businesses have city and state regulations and struggle. A lot of it is just the burden of enforcement. Sometimes it's more enforcement than it should be. So we have to deal with that. We have to deal with the certification and training of our workers so that ultimately they can look at the opportunity to be owners and not workers for the rest of their lives. So we have to look at enhanced training, the ASA training, so that they can start working on electric cars and, modernize technology in their facilities. Thirdly, displacement policies. We have to focus on commercial tenants who also face harassment, just like many of our residential tenants too. So we passed the certificate of no harassment for commercial tenants in New York City to make sure that they are not harassed by unscrupulous property owners. We have to take that a step further and provide more protections and safeguards against displacement with commercial businesses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo.
Well, we can't look any further. I mean, they're getting displaced regardless. So we need to find them a new place. I believe that out of the $189 million that was allocated for JARC and the rezoning projects that are going to be coming up, I think they only got $1.9 million. I don't know if that's enough, but I agree, Vanessa. We need to train them. We need to make sure that they are taught the regulations. And I totally agree. As a former police officer, I can tell you myself, they are over-regulated and they are over-enforced. And you can't run a business that way, always having that look over your shoulder. And we need to teach them that as they get displaced and move on somewhere else, that they know they have all the information. And it's got to be tangible. It's got to be, okay, this is how you're going to operate. This is what you need to do to operate properly. And obviously, as a Bronx Borough President, I will make it my priority that folks that are getting displaced for no fault of their own and their businesses, they are properly moved somewhere else.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gibson, it's no secret that the borough of the Bronx has the largest food market in the country, maybe even the world. And yet we have food insecurity, frankly, everywhere. So I'm wondering if you are the borough president, how do you step back, take a look at that? And even though without legislative power, you figure out how to solve that problem or address
Absolutely. It. Thank you, Gary. So right now, the Hunts Point Food and Produce Market provides about 70% of the local produce to our restaurants here in the Bronx. We need to look at opportunities where that number can grow, and we reduce truck traffic because of the high asthma rates we have in the Bronx, the asthma alley of the country. We also have to look at existing programs like Health Bucks, which I've been funding in the council for years. We have to look at extending all of our farmers markets and green markets. They should be all year round. We have to look at programs like the Fresh program under SBS and EDC, where you allow supermarkets at a certain square footage to have access to incentives to offer better food. We want to achieve universal healthy food for every Bronx resident, regardless of how much is in your bank account and where you live and your zip code. Because the reality is Healthy food is inaccessible for many families, and it should not be. People cannot travel. We have to work with our neighborhood merchants, our grocery stores, the bodegas, the supermarkets. We have to work with all of them on greater opportunities. Everybody has the ability to do better if given the opportunity. We have to open the doors so that they can be better neighbors for us. We have to look at our urban agriculture and farming. We have a farm on forest houses working with Green City Forest, programs like that that really provide opportunity. What about our community gardens right in our neighborhoods and our green thumbs, where you have volunteers that are growing fruits and vegetables, collard greens, and so many things like that, and it's all free. So I think we have to look at our treasures right here in the Bronx. We have to look at expanding these opportunities and also supporting these measures in budgets. We really have to think big, and we have to think that our people deserve better and we should get better.
I didn't mention that there was Allison from Phipps Neighborhood who presented that question, so we want to give her the credit for that. And Mr. Ravelo, people are hungry in the Bronx. There's food out there. How do we get it to them?
Well, obviously, you know, it's through education, and we gotta make sure that you know, whoever is our loudest voice, which is going to be the Bronx Borough President, shouts that out. We can't allow food that comes from the Bronx to go somewhere else, feeding somewhere else. We got to feed our people first. It has to be done. And if we don't let people know about this, you know, a lot of folks out there, and I'm out there every day, like everybody else here, giving out food, making sure people get masks and making sure that they're secure from this terrible pandemic, and they don't know these things, you know. So every time I pull up with a food truck, you see people just rushing these trucks because they feel that insecurity. But if they knew that most of that stuff is coming from the Bronx, they would be outraged. So it starts with letting the people know, and obviously forcing city government to make sure that the Bronx gets their fair share, and they're due.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Fernandez, what's your thought?
Yes, I think partnerships are important. That's one of the powers that I see the Borough President's office has, working with city government and our officials to make sure that we're funding these resources that can come directly to our communities. But also the private partnerships that we have here. Why isn't like Chase Bank or Fresh Direct helping to partner with CBOs and other community organizations to have meal programs? We do need to make sure that a lot of the food here comes to the Borough of the Bronx. And we need to let people know that healthy options, obviously, is a better option. But I think that we should have year-round farmers markets. When we can be outside, they should be outside, but also utilizing insides and combining that with urban farming. In my district, there's been proposals for an abandoned building to make that all an indoor farming building. And I think that's a great tool to only teach about healthy living and gardening, our environment, and what it can give back to us, but then also being that extra aid to local communities, local restaurants, and schools and communities alike that need that extra good green stuff.
Thank you very much. I guess we're back to you, Mr. Ravelo. This came up actually a few times in questions people asked. So let's credit Rosemary from who's a community board member in Community Board 4. The question from Rosemary is, how would you advocate to make the distribution of homeless shelters fair and equitable across New York City and ensure that not one particular community has to shoulder the burden unfairly? Boy, do I hear this from a lot of neighborhoods in the Bronx. Mr. Ravelo, I don't know if you're muted there, but we couldn't hear you there for a second. Oh, still not hearing him, or is it just me? So let's let.
No, we don't hear him.
We're not hearing him.
And it's not a mute issue on Zoom. It's him. You may want to try to unplug your headphones.
Take your headphones off.
Yeah. And if not, we'll move ahead and he could square it away and we'll go. Yep, we're not hearing him. So let's Mr. Ravelo, keep working on it, and let's I forget already the order. I guess Assemblymember Fernandez. Everybody's getting a chance here tonight. Assemblymember Fernandez, go right ahead. Let's talk about unfairly situating homeless shelters in certain neighborhoods.
Well, having fair share is important. You know, there should not be one district that it has just all the shelters in there. Every district I'm talking about community board districts, they do have members that have gone homeless, become homeless, that are homeless. So we need to make sure we're protecting everyone in our districts. Take care of your neighbor. But also making sure that the numbers don't supersede each other. Like we can't have 50 shelters in one area and then right next door only one. But shelters are not the only solution for displaced families and for homeless families. There are vacant apartments here. We need to work with our local officials to make sure that we're expanding the voucher program and working with landlords that will accept them, so families are getting integrated into buildings that will soon become permanent homes. So I think that we should explore that more and try not to build so many shelters, but also just bringing people into new homes that will be permanent.
Okay, Councilmember Gibson.
Gary, you know this is an issue I'm so passionate about. And I say that because my district, Community Boards 3, 4, and 5, has extremely large number of social service programs, family shelters, single adult shelters, all sorts of programs for people in need. The reality is when you talk about homelessness, it is a citywide problem. It means that all neighborhoods have to consume their own population of homeless individuals and families, and everyone has to share in a citywide burden. It is unfortunate that we've not seen equity across the board in the city, just like we have not seen equity when it comes to citing affordable housing projects. So you hear terms like "not in my backyard." We don't want those people. You know, they're drug addicts, they're violent, they're offenders. Not acceptable. These are people that need help. A majority of the folks that are in shelters today are working people. They have a full-time job, but they cannot pay their rent and they cannot afford the rents out there. So the number one issue, build more affordable housing. Number two, making sure that homeless families that originate from a particular community board, as long as it's not a DV case, they should stay in that community board. We also have to reduce the burden of cluster housing, which is predominantly in the Bronx. We have to phase those out and turn those units back to affordable housing. There have been lawsuits, there's been litigation, advocates, so many people that have been talking about the incredible amount of money that we invest, millions and billions of dollars on shelters when we could be building more affordable housing.
Time is up there. Thank you very much.
Right on
Mr.
time.
Ravelo, right on time. I just got the notice. Time is up. Yeah, very good. Mr. Ravelo, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Heard you. We can. Go right ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. Yes, you know, we've seen over and over again, and me personally, I worked in the Bronx for 21 out of the 25 years that I spent in NYPD, and that's the same story that I've heard for my lifetime. The Bronx has always carried the burden of the homeless in New York City, and as Bronx Borough President, that's something that I'm going to advocate. I put my life savings to buy my house here 18 years ago. And that was one of the concerns, you know. 50% of the homeless population were sent to the Bronx. It's something that has to stop. And as your Bronx Borough President, that's something that I really gonna advocate, that, you know, there's gotta be a fair distribution, that there is a fair distribution of our homeless people. Not that we don't want them, but it's gotta be equitable. And that's one of the things that I'm going to advocate for.
Thank you very much. I did a program, we recorded it today. It'll be on next week with 3 of our new assembly members. And one of the topics we talked about was eviction and eviction protection for so many Bronxites. And they all represent districts in the South Bronx. And they each said there are thousands of people in that situation. Having said that, a question came from Lewis, who said, how will you work with JARC to assist small businesses with rent arrears? So I'm going to put it all together. We've got eviction protections. We've got commercial businesses that also have not been able to pay their rent. What do we do? I guess first then would be, I've lost track. Councilmember Gibson, why don't you start then, and we'll go back around.
Sure. So just as we have achieved universal right to counsel for residents that are facing eviction in housing court, we've seen a reduction citywide by 40% pre-pandemic. We have to look at protections in the commercial industry as well. Small businesses that fall behind in rent, we have to provide the mechanisms by which they can have their rents paid up to speed, but also we have to make sure that they're maintaining their businesses. During this pandemic, we've seen businesses struggle. They have struggled to meet, payroll, property taxes, water bills, everything. None of that has been changed. No relief has been provided. We're now working on a reduction program in the city council to reduce the inordinate amount of fines that businesses are dealing with, and really making sure that we provide a better service where they're not facing the inundation of all of these fines. Commercial tenants face a greater burden and they have less protections. So what I'd like to see and what we've offered at the council are civil legal services for businesses that are facing eviction. Just as we do in housing court, we would have the same process in civil court proceedings. And the bill is moving through the council. There's great momentum, and we believe that we can be victorious. We also have to look at existing programs at small business services, like the commercial leasing program, CLS. There are other programs that SBS has. We have to look at the workforce development sites so that they can provide direct services on the ground to many of these organizations. And finally, we have to support organizations like WAMA and JARC that are serving the residents and these businesses every single day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo. Same question for you. We've got commercial people not paying rent and residential people not paying rent. What do we do?
Yes, and most of those people are, minorities. That the people that actually own businesses here in the Bronx are folks that are immigrants, African Americans, Latinos. So we have to make sure that they are protected. Three things, and we have two people in the legislature here that they can start working on that right now before it hits us in the face, because there's going to be a wave of landlords that are going to try to evict these. I think all three of us can agree on that. There's going to be a wave of landlords that are going to try to hurt. I think these businesses need three things: grants, a moratorium on evictions. We can come up with a number, either a year and a half, where it gives them a chance to get under the water because of the pandemic, and leases. One of my proposals, and I don't know if any of our legislators here want to run with this, is that businesses get automatically a 5-year lease, to these businesses that are about to expire. They that allows them to at least stay in business, keep the people that they have employed, and somehow get under from the underwater that the pandemic caused them to get under.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Fernandez?
Yes. So we need to make sure that tenants stay in their home. For the buildings that to come that will bring affordable housing, we need to put pressure on the new mayor to make sure that they keep those deals and that the housing rents are actually affordable to the community and what they can afford. We need to protect those buildings that are not, that are still here, and make sure that market rent doesn't go up and drives people out of their current apartments, utilizing the right to counsel, but also enforcing our state elected officials, and this is something I'm working on, to make sure that we extend that moratorium a year after the pandemic is over, to make sure that people have that fighting chance to stay in their home. But the problem is rent is due because the property bills or the property taxes are due, the water bill is due, this sewage, everything, electricity, utilities are due. This is the same thing that our small businesses are going through. So I introduced a bill in attempt to pause everything. Nobody's making business enough to pay their bills. Nobody's working enough to pay their rent. We need to put a pause on that. I'm still trying to push on that in the state assembly. But we need to give something else to our small businesses. Aside from stimulus checks, I am fighting in the state to make sure that we increase revenue so we have more money to give back to our businesses so they can pay these bills. But there was a proposal that I'm very supportive of in allowing businesses to keep their sales tax. Instead of paying sales tax back to the city, keep that and utilize that to keep your business open, to pay your employees, and to keep the doors open.
Thank you very much. Let's stay with you, Assembly Member. I want to follow up with kind of the other side of the coin. There are many landlords and property owners who are property owners of commercial properties who are good landlords and good developers and good property owners. And they're saying, wait a minute, these people, I understand that they're not paying rent, but I can't stay in business. And it's the same thing with the residential properties. Not every landlord, for sure, is doing a bad job. Many of them, certainly in the Bronx, they're keeping their buildings clean. They're doing it for the right reasons. Yet they're saying, wait a minute, I got 50 apartments that people aren't paying rent now for 8 months. What do we say to them?
Well, as much as we demand good landlords, we need good tenants. Everybody has bills to pay. So if you can pay your rent, please do. Because the only reason why the landlord is asking for that is because he has bills to pay. And if he can't pay his bills, then we all lose our home. So to keep that notion alive and to keep encouraging our neighbors to help each other out, if you have the means, please do pay. But like I said, we're pushing to make sure that we have support from our government to have the rents paid or all these things to disappear. So there was arguments that landlords are getting the payout while the tenants are being demanded the rent. That's not true. The tenant's only being demanded the rent because he has to pay his bills. So if we cut out the middleman, which is the tenant, and just make sure that he can get his bills paid, then we can all live and be happy. But we need to make sure that people aren't not paying just because they feel they don't have to. And landlords right now, under some legislation that was passed in the state.
30 seconds. I'm sorry.
Ooh, you had me off there for a second. But we need to make sure that they have the support to get these bills paid, to keep the money circulating in our economy, and to make sure that people don't lose homes, that we don't close doors and businesses, and that we have this understanding that it's not just one against the other. We're in this together.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gibson, what about the landlords and the property owners who are like, wait a minute, we're funding this stuff. Who helps us?
Definitely understand, Gary, and definitely sympathize with many of our small landlords and many of our homeowners of 1 and 2 family homes who are predominantly owners of color. Let's be very clear on the vulnerability of many of these owners and homeowners that have been subjected to some of the challenges of just maintaining their properties. So in the city council, working with HPD, we have a program called Landlord Ambassador Program. And shout out to Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, because they are one of the grantees that receives funding, and their responsibility is to work with small landlords who have less than 30 units in their building. They help them with property taxes, water relief, just the basic compliance, city and state, code violations and things of that nature. And the program has been successful. Last year's budget, we were not able to add more money, but I'm certain and hopeful this year we will be able to sustain the program and, if anything, enhance it. The bottom line is we need property tax relief. And sadly, because of the antiquated system, you have property owners in the Bronx who pay more in property taxes than those in Park Slope and Williamsburg and other places in Brooklyn and other boroughs, because the system is antiquated. We have to revamp the system, and we also have to look at giving our homeowners some sort of relief, because many of them too have lost income because their tenants have fallen behind in rent because of the loss of income. So there's a lot that we can do, but some programs are existing that have been successful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo. What about the landlords?
Yeah, well, I'm a landlord myself. When I bought my house on Victor Street in Morris Park 18 years ago, it's a 2-family home. When the pandemic hit and I know my tenant lost her job, I sat down with them and we worked something out without having to go through no courts or anything like that. I provided that relief because I kind of could afford it at the time. Obviously, you can only afford certain things for a certain amount of time. I call it shared sacrifice. Right now, we all have to sacrifice. We got to identify those landlords that they don't really, they profited from the great years, I call it, so now the next couple of years, you got to get back a little bit. Me personally, and I hope our folks, our brothers and sisters in Jark, I'm not for for-profit affordable housing. I think the next couple of years as a Bronx Borough President, if something hits my table, for-profit affordable housing, it's really just a slippery slope for huge profits for developers and private landlords. So I asked the landlords, I'm with you, but at the same time, you got to understand that right now everybody's sacrificing just a little bit.
Thank you very much. I guess the first one now goes to you, Mr. Ravelo, right? Do I think I have that right? Let's talk about job training. One of the questions that came out of the JARC materials was, what resources do you allocate for training in key industries? And I'll extend that and say, we need job training in many industries, small, medium, and large. People in the Bronx need jobs, and right now so much has been cut out. How do we reinvigorate the market and make sure those jobs go to the people of the Bronx?
Yeah, and it's gonna be a tough. I saw that the Bronx Borough President's office had a $17 million budget for the fiscal year 2021. And out of that 17 million, most of it went to schools, which is unfortunate because these this these monies can go to our people for training sites and training for the next generation economy, which I call it, for green jobs, learning how to repair, I believe somebody said, electric autos and electric batteries. One of my proposals is promote trade schools coming out of high school where folks get paid a couple of hours so they can learn the jobs of the future. So that's one of the things that I want to propose, some sort of task force for coming out of the Bronx Borough President's office, take some of that budget and start training our folks so they can start perhaps, get a job for the next generation economy.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Gibson, to you.
Thank you so much. So I agree. And I also think that we have to have a comprehensive job training program. As a part of the rezoning, we were able to launch the New York City Green Jobs Corporation, working with SBS, working with organizations like Helmets to Hard Hats, and the non-traditional employment for women. I think we have to expand on apprenticeship opportunities so that we have a sector that leads into union jobs, training up the next engineer, the next laborer, the next lather, the next plumber, electrician. These are all careers that really build stability with young people. And we need to recruit at CUNY and at the high school level. I also want to recognize the great work at the Workforce Development Center at not just Hostos, but at Bronx Community College. They have been working with students on pipelines into the construction industry and looking at jobs. Yes, we have to look at green jobs. Yes, we have to look at worker cooperatives. We have to look at making sure that job seekers have an understanding of where the services are. I also want to really put a plug in for formerly incarcerated men and women because they have a strike against them and no one wants to hire them. So we have to make sure that we work with many of our formerly incarcerated men and women coming home so they have a pipeline and they don't have a second and third and fourth strike against them just because they have a record. They have a service, they have a level of experience and a skill set, and we have to tap into that. So I will be, as borough president, working with all of the trades, formulating a working group with the labor unions and everyone as we reform ULURP and the land use process. We need to build a comprehensive jobs plan that includes all the stakeholders working with JARC and making sure that all of us are working towards the same goal.
Assemblymember Fernandez, let's talk about job training in the Bronx and in particular in the Jerome Avenue rezoning.
We need to get right onto the avenue. So if we can get a mobile unit or within development, maybe even start a co-working space that can also be a job training location right there in the area. And we do need to start young, start where the new workforce is coming out of, our high schools, our colleges, and not only, yes, show that path to trade schools. I believe that we absolutely need to show that strength and that opportunity that lies with that type of career, but utilizing the experiences and skills needed in various jobs that the city already holds within agencies to make sure that people can learn from it and maybe take that to another career. But it's really important that, we have this education available in languages. That's one thing too, that we need to make sure that we bring access to, language access. So as much as we're just spewing out information, we need to make sure it's being communicated and taken in by our Bronx residents here. And we need to also just have every platform available. The projects that to come, yes, they should be offering jobs to the community, but again, not just jobs, but apprenticeships to lead to careers. And that's something that needs to be enforced by the borough president along with the mayor to make sure that promises are kept. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we are providing new job opportunities to even current businesses. You know, making partnerships with our local entrepreneurs and startups to be a part of the greater projects that we can imagine.
Time. Oh, right on time. Thank you very much. We'll ask one last question. I want to ask about greening the Bronx. This is an urban center. Of course, we have more parkland than anybody else. We know that, but we have such difficulties with our environment, whether it be our shorelines that are threatened by climate change, or certainly we talk about air quality. So I guess I think you, Assemblywoman Fernandez, get it first. Let's talk about how are we going to green the Bronx? What do you see are the problems and how we're going to solve those problems?
Thank you. This is actually one of my favorite topics and components of my campaign. We are the greenest borough. We need to be the greenest borough in many different ways. Attacking the issues that have plagued us for so long. Asthma, air quality is a big deal here in the Bronx, and we are the home of Asthma Alley, the highest asthma rate in the country, not just even the state. One component that we have done is removing the Sheridan Expressway, making it a boulevard, rerouting our truck routes so they're not going right through our community, spewing all these emissions everywhere. I support capping the Cross Bronx. That technology is alive. These emissions of people sitting in traffic are continuing to billow into the community. The technology is there to make sure that we can cover it, subdue it, and maybe put a park on top, more green space. We love that. We love recreation here in the Bronx. But our edges, our waterways, our wildlife need to be thought of when we continue to think about the funding that needs to go here. We have the most parks, the biggest park in the city. We should be getting the bigger park budget. That's something I will push for and advocate in City Hall when I have
30 seconds.
In hearings. But protecting our waterways as well, making sure that we're keeping wildlife in mind because they do add to the ecosystem that creates the beautiful communities that we have here. And like I said before, green jobs. Our buildings should not be hurting us. Our homes, our infrastructure should not be hurting us. They should be adding to the health that we need to protect here in the Bronx.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gibson, for you. Let's talk green in the BX.
Yes, how can we green the Bronx? So we certainly have to look at the waterfront development. We've started a number of resiliency projects. I'm very proud to represent the High Bridge, the oldest standing bridge in New York City. Very, very proud to represent that. Connects us to Northern Manhattan. We also have to look at more energy efficiency projects. We've been very deliberate in the city council about pushing legislation to get this city to invest in its infrastructure. We have one of the oldest and aging infrastructures in the country, and we have to look at energy efficiency. We have to look at micro wind turbines and reduce truck traffic. We have to look at green roofs. I was very proud. High Bridge, my beloved High Bridge, the very first ever middle school in High Bridge with a green roof. And the Department of Ed did not want to fund that, but parents pushed. We should have a green roof on every building. We have to look at window insulations and so many things we can do. And we can start at the construction level. We can start with housing. We can start with some of the terms and conditions in our RFPs so we can get developers to think green and to look at energy efficient projects so that we are looking at better opportunities, greater air quality, less pollution, less truck traffic. And my last bit is finding a way to deliver produce that's not via truck and looking at other ways of delivery. Some of our waterways and other things we should be looking at as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo.
Well, all of the above, both Assemblywoman Fernandez and Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson are right. You know, we need to do all those things. Me personally, I like to more incentives for homeowners, especially two-family homeowners, to go green, put solar panels in their homes. Right now, my home doesn't qualify because it's a two-family house. We got to find ways to start allowing for homes like mine to be able to go green and put solar panels on. I'm happy to see that my son has bought into the green movement. He got his car is fully electric, but the problem that he's having is that there's not that many charging stations. All right, so I as Bronx Borough President is one of those things. You know, we as in the Ravelo family, we're gonna do our part to make the Bronx go green, but obviously the government needs to help. We need to start giving incentives to start putting more charging stations. That's going to allow more folks to buy more green cars, and I call it a snowball. So, like like Vanessa Gibson said it and Natalia Fernandez said, they're right about the pollution in the Cross Bronx, about making and Jark,
30 seconds.
the new constructions that are going on Jerome Avenue, they have to have a green component on it. I'm hoping, I know you guys are going to look at that, and I'm hoping that these businesses and these developers abide by whatever rules we set forth as far as going green. It's very important for our community in our borough.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravelo, Ms. Fernandez, and Ms. Gibson. We've come to just about the end of the program, but we'll give each of you a minute to offer just a summary or a concluding statement or any other greeting you'd like. We'll go in the same order. Mr. Ravelo, to you.
Okay. I'm very happy. First, I want to say thank you to Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez, Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson. I really thank you for being here. And I'll be brief. I have lived the American dream. I came here as an undocumented kid. We talk about homelessness. My first week that I was here in this great country, I was homeless myself. And now I'm here, actually debating two wonderful women, two powerful women for the Bronx Borough Presidency. So I know that each one of us, our heart is in the right place. We really want what's best for our borough. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the campaign trail and continue debating the issues with both Vanessa Gibson and Natalia Fernandez. And I really thank you. Gary, as usual, you do a great job. Paul, Pierina, where is she? It's a very spunky young woman. I really thank everybody. So I'm looking forward to representing the Bronx if you so elect me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see, Assemblywoman Fernandez, your comments? Oh, you got to unmute there.
Mute.
There you go. Nope, not yet. There we go.
What I said, 10 months in.
You could, yeah, okay, go ahead.
But thank you so much, Gary. Thank you to this group, Paul, Pierina, everyone. Again, this is an example of what community should be doing to prepare for the rezonings to come and to still fight and make sure that what the community needs, the community gets. I'm here to make sure the Bronx gets what it deserves. I've dedicated my career, my entire adult career, to being a public servant to the Bronx, and I continue to do that. And I credit my commitment, my work ethic, and my ability to build bridges with communities and build these collaborations to make sure, again, we get what we deserve and we are heard and our needs are brought to the table. And when I have that seat at the table, you know you have a seat right next to me because I listen to my community, I fight for my community, and I speak for those who feel they don't have a voice. My experience, my integrity, and my energy is what will get us out of this hole and back to the beautiful Bronx that we know and love is here and deserves to be. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continue this campaign. Sammy, Vanessa, thank you for being here. I'm sorry the other candidates couldn't be here tonight, but this presentation was amazing. This collaborative is amazing. And I look forward to continue to making the Bronx be the amazing borough that we are.
Thank you very much. Boy, is that ever energizing. We appreciate that. Vanessa Gibson, your final statement.
Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you, Paul, Ken, Pierina, Sammy, Natalia. Thank you to everyone, the JARC steering committee members. Thank you so much for always believing in the Bronx, for all of the opportunities that we have been afforded as Bronx residents. We understand the challenges that we are confronted with. We know that we have so much opportunity to do better, and we have to demand better. We have an opportunity in June to elect the next champion of the Bronx, someone who does not need on-the-job training, someone who has a working record and a record of accomplishment, someone who has invested in the Bronx when times were tough, someone who has never given up, and someone who stands on values that is firm in the work that is necessary to be done. We are moving this borough together because we recognize that COVID-19 was a setback, but every setback is preparation for a comeback. The Bronx has been through challenging times. COVID will knock us down, but we're going to get back up because our children deserve better. We deserve access to healthy, affordable, quality healthcare and housing and public education. You know what? I want it all because we deserve it all. And we have that opportunity as we lead this borough in so many different ways with different titles, but we are all in this together. And so I thank you so much, Jark. I thank you, Gary, for all of the work that all of you are doing. We cannot give up. We will not give up because the Bronx is resilient and better and brighter days are ahead. God bless you all and stay safe, everyone.
Well, there's your boost of energy for everybody, from all the candidates tonight. I will tell you, I'm gonna do my concluding remarks. First of all, the new technology that we've all learned through this very terrible pandemic really is very advantageous, because every organization is having all these kinds of forums, and we are getting, and you know, I work on voter education. We are getting the best voter education we've ever had in my broadcast career as a result. And so thanks to JARC for having the vision, and the candidates also, because they do 5 of these a night, and my hat's off to them. I do want to just point up 2 words that came up in I believe what Perina said in the beginning. She talked about the independence, and that's what I said way in the beginning. The fact is, JARC is not about waiting for somebody else. We're independent. They brought all these great, think of all the resources we have in this and really every Bronx community, and they brought them all together in a collaborative, democratic way. I mean, that's who we are. It's the BX. And then, of course, the whole notion of collective impact. I feel like we invented it. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about the Bronx. Anyway, let me bring back my friend Paul Phillips from Community Board 4 to deliver some sort of closing remarks. Please, JARC is open to everybody in this community. Get involved. Do your part, your building, your neighborhood, your park, whatever you got, bring it, because we want to make it better. There you go.
Thank you so much, Gary. We are so fortunate to have you as our moderator this evening. I want to thank all of the candidates again, Councilmember Gibson, Assemblywoman Fernandez, and Mr. Ravelo, for not only your participation, but your really thoughtful responses to a lot of questions. It's going to be a really tough borough president race for sure. Just so everybody knows, we extended an invitation to all the candidates. Unfortunately, they couldn't all join us, but we wish all of the candidates the best of luck, and we'll see what happens in November. Now, JARC week is officially over, unfortunately, but here's what I will say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning. We're just beginning to scratch the surface. So if you're interested in joining one of our working groups, joining our WhatsApp group, jarkbx@gmail.com, jarkbx@gmail.com, jarkbx.com. Please see us on Facebook, on Twitter. I don't tweet, but those of you who do tweet us. Instagram, we are there. We're here. We want to be a resource for everyone. We're very, very, very excited. And I just want to say this to all of my colleagues, my steering committee members, and all the members of JARC. I was there at the very first meeting that we ever had for Jerome Avenue way back in 2014, when I still didn't have any hair, but this was not so gray as it is right now. And of all the things that I participated in related to Jerome Avenue, this is the thing that I am most proud of, I have to say. This collaborative has been a labor of love for 2 years, and we really are, we are a family. Some of these people, we see each other, Perina, she called it, we see each other 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a week. Not because we just want to have meetings, because we are committed. We believe in the work, and we believe in the power of the collective. And it's really important to us. And I'm super, super proud of everybody here. I can't thank everybody enough. Jobs First, Marjorie, Roman, Diana Torres, Dedisha Thompson. I could go on and on. Perina, Lisa Marie, everybody's fantastic. Carrie, Marco, Wedco, you guys have really been amazing. And this is really a great testament to what we can do collectively as a group when we work together for a common core and a common goal. So with that, I want to wish everybody good night. But again, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Look for us. We're there. There's going to be more programming coming your way. We're bringing a lot more to the community, a lot more resources, and making sure that each and every one of you has a seat at the table. Wish you all a very good night and have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. God bless.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jark.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.